Awesome. It says recording. I guess that's what looks on my end. Awesome. Okay. Well, welcome, ladies. I wanted to launch into, first of all, nutrition is like a huge, huge passion of mine because it was the game changer in my journey. So briefly, I don't want to spend a ton of time on my story, but briefly, just basically so you get the background. When I first started, I thought like eat less, work out more. I gotta sweat a lot. I gotta like not eat, and that's how I lose weight. And that is how I approached getting healthy at the very, very, very beginning. I didn't have a supportive beach body. I didn't have a coach, and I didn't have an idea what I was doing. So I basically did that. I hit my gym like crazy. I was going to, no joke, like 3 hours a day to the gym. I was there sometimes longer than some personal trainers were working, and I was spinning my wheels. I was doing whatever I could, treadmill, do something with weights, go to classes, and that is how I started. And though I was losing some inches, I was not seeing the scale go down, and that was super frustrating because I knew I needed to lose weight, and loss of inches was great. Smaller clothes was great, but I knew in the grand scheme of things that I had 50 plus pounds to lose, and I was feeling like, okay, putting a lot of effort here and nothing is happening or it's going super slow. So about 3 months of that went by where I was legit 6 days a week, 3 hours in the gym, spending a lot of my life there, having my baby in tow, and I had lost a total of 10 pounds. So it was at that point that people were like, "Oh, you look so awesome." And yeah, I probably lost more inches and all that, and that was exciting. But again, I still felt like my results weren't reflecting my effort because 3 hours in the gym for 3 solid months, 6 days a week, I felt like I should have lost 50 pounds. Like that's just how it felt, as far as the effort I put into it. So I had a good friend of mine that I met through the gym, and she was teaching turbo kick, one of my classes I fell in love with, and I then became an instructor in. But she just told me and encouraged me to look into my eating and to research clean eating. That's all she said. She said, research clean eating, see what you find. And I told her, I eat healthy. I eat low fat this, diet that, no sugar this. And that is really, really, really to the core what I felt like healthy meant. It meant the lowest calories possible. It meant the diet eating food, and that is what I consumed, or the least amount I could. So at that time, my world kind of changed too, and all of a sudden, I was in a life situation where I was watching two of my nieces and one of my nephews and my baby. So now I had too many car seats for the car. I couldn't go to the gym. So I said, okay, well, why don't I put this clean eating thing to the test? And so I found online a free thing that that I have done in the past, and I call it my Eat Clean Get Lean challenge, and that's something I could talk about another time. But basically, I said, you know what? Let me put this to the test. I'm not going to work out as much. I at that point had found Turbo Jam, so I was doing my Turbo Jam in my living room with my nieces, and but it wasn't 3 hours a day. So in my head, I'm like, oh crap, those 10 pounds are going to come back. I'm going to gain more weight. I can't get to the gym. This is hopeless. So I did 30 days of what was all new to me, clean eating. And I'll go over a little bit of what I did, but in these 30 days, I lost 15 pounds. And I remember just like being blown away at what my body did in 30 days of clean eating and adjusting my intake. I felt like I've never eaten so much in my life. And I had felt like never in my life had I felt so satisfied with food. And it almost felt like I was cheating, or I'd found this secret when I'd step on the scale and see like another pound down, another pound down. And and it was boggling my mind that I wasn't spending 3 hours in the gym every day. I was spending 20 to 30 minutes working out to my DVDs. And along with like chasing around four kids in my house, two of them being babies. My daughter was 6 months old. And in 30 days, I'm like, okay, 33 months of dying and feeling so like I was getting nowhere, and 10 pounds. I felt defeated. That didn't feel like an accomplishment. And then here was 30 days of really just focusing on my food, my workouts went way down to something that was sustainable, and 15 pounds just dropped like that. So that was like a world rocker. I felt like I found the secret magic pill that everyone's been looking for, and I needed to shout it from the rooftop. So for me, nutrition and clean eating is like so huge because it is the game changer in what we try to do in weight loss and getting healthy. So, and everybody can be eating clean. It's not just for the person losing weight, and it's not just the person who's training hard. It is for living to have a healthy life. And so I became crazy passionate about that. So I wanted to go over a little bit of what I did. I don't want you to think that it's something that you have to do to a T, because I want to go over in general the concepts I learned from general clean eating for you to be able to take with you and start applying now, but then also introduce our nutrition program. So after that journey, I had spent years of doing clean eating challenges and eat clean, get lean challenges and designing emails and information. And honestly, I felt like, should I go get my nutrition license? What can I do to serve my people? Because at this point, I was now a coach and now helping women get healthy. And the nutrition component was always something that was just not always easy to kind of grasp. Every program has a nutrition plan, every program has recipes, every program kind of breaks it down for you. But it was through the life experience I had that I knew that that personal like transformation of my heart and mind with food was what was helped me lose my initial 75 pounds. So that's what kickstarted all that, and my love for health and fitness and teaching and coaching and all that. So um I literally spent like years like, what can I do? I'm just a mom who did it herself, but how can I go to women and teach them these things? Well, lo and behold, from there, 21 Day Fix came out with the containers, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. It's teaching women about portion control. It's making it like portion control for dummies. Like, this is great. And it revolutionized the health and fitness industry, and has been awesome. But it can also be kind of a steep learning curve. So we'll get into that in a minute. Then comes in 2B Mindset. 2B Mindset came with a registered dietitian. She lived it and lost over 100 pounds, and she still lives it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I've literally been praying about this program and also the Ultimate Portion Fix like for years. So that's why I so love them. And I'm so excited that they come with the packs now with the muscle burns fat. And after that, they're going to be like a staple in the packs. At least that's what I'm hearing now. And afterwards. So let me rewind and get back to what I did for the 30 days so that you can make these little tweaks and know you don't have to do exactly what I did for the 30 days, but you can take my experience and you can apply them. So what I did is I literally Googled how to eat clean. And what came up for me was a what you'd call, or what you'll hear people call, an elimination diet. Now, I hate the word diet, but this was a period of time, which is what a diet is, that I was going to be stricter for the sake of learning about my personal body, like me and my food. So for 30 days, I removed, and I'm not going to remember the list off the top of my head because my pregnant brain won't work, but, and the list isn't necessarily important, but there was items to remove from your nutrition. So it wasn't about, you can't eat that, you can't eat that, this is bad, this is not good for you, don't eat carbs. It wasn't about that, but it was, these are 6 things, and I can go into that, and I have a whole program, my Eat Clean Get Lean, it's all about that. But and that's for free. But for 30 days, it was like, just remove these 6 things from your diet. Don't replace them. Don't go shopping for everything that's free of these things, but just take them out of your diet consciously and eat basically real food. And after the 30 days, you reintroduce. And the purpose of that was, it wasn't weight loss. The purpose is health. Because after the 30 days, I reintroduced these things back into my diet, and one of them was gluten. And if you know me, I eat gluten free because I discovered from those 30 days that I was constantly inflamed and swollen, not knowingly, because I was always consuming gluten. And I actually, it wasn't until my youngest was my recent youngest, Ezra was born, that I officially like took gluten out of my diet completely, because I went like on a, it doesn't kill me, I'm not allergic to it, I don't go into like anaphylactic shock. My body just doesn't like it. Well, I never learned that my body didn't like it until I took up time of intentionally removing it. So that's what that period is. And if that is where you need to be right now, and you need a period of like, hey, I need to take out sugar, I need to take out soda. It could be like one thing where you're like, I just need to take this out because I don't have a good, like, that thing is ruling over me. Then you should take it out, and that's fine. But the thing that you want to get away from is that thing's bad, or I can never have this, um, because that type of mentality is a dieter's mentality, and that's not going to serve you. So rewind. So after the 30 days, I started reintroducing these things into my diet, and I would be able to reflect and see how it affected me personally. Not women shouldn't have this, not it's bad for you, but Rosie, how does it affect me? So I introduced gluten and realized I had to take off my rings because I was swelling up like a balloon. And that was me, my body telling me, like, we don't like this. We can't, like, there's something wrong here. So then I can make a choice. Um, I can make a choice to eliminate that from my regular eating. I can decide to have that every once in a while and suffer the consequences. I can decide I don't care and I want to eat all the pasta or bread, and I'll just deal with it. So you can kind of tell where the mindsets are on the choices that you make. So for lots of years with gluten, I was just an 80-20 approach was my approach. I would sometimes have it, I would choose my favorite things. If I went to a certain restaurant that I liked a certain thing, I'd have it then, but then not have any other gluten for the rest of the day. And it really wasn't until, like I said, Ezra was born, that a good friend of mine had shared her experience with gluten, and she equated it, and I love this because I do this now with other foods. She equated it with a bad for you boyfriend, that the one that promises that it's going to be great and they love you, and you take them back and then you immediately regret it. And that's what gluten was doing to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, gluten is a bad boyfriend for me. It was something where I was like, oh, I'll just have a little bit of it in my life and it's okay. And then I took that mentality and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like, what would I tell a girlfriend who's doing that? Like, think about the bad boyfriend. Would I say, like, oh, if it's really worth it, that piece of cake. And it wasn't about the weight, and it wasn't about that it was good or bad. It was me really reflect on how I felt. And so I eliminated gluten completely from my diet. So I think we're going on 4 years, 4 years now, because I was just four and almost a half, and 100%. And that's been a game changer. And I have some pictures in our group, if you search, where even 2 weeks of like removing it 100%, and you could see the inflammation. And that's for me, personally, my body. So I don't tell people you got to remove gluten because it's bad, because your body may very well take in gluten, break it down, and be fine with it. And you can keep it in your world. Maybe you need to keep the portions of how much carbs in general you intake. But for me, I have to remove gluten completely. It makes me feel good too. Could I consume it? Sure, I could. I'm a grown up and I can make that choice. Will I feel good afterwards? No. I've had a few times where I've had gluten accidentally, and the way it affects my body, it's crazy to think that I was in a constant state of that. So if I had a little bit of gluten, I go into like instant brain fog, where like my brain doesn't work. I go into instant swelling. I would look way more pregnant than I am now. And it's just crazy how it affects me. But I would never have known that if I didn't take a time to eliminate it from my diet. A few other food groups that was part of that elimination diet was dairy. Another was alcohol. Again, I'm not going to remember everything right now. But the point of it was to remove certain things. And if you're like really want to know what the different categories are, I can help you with that one-on-one and we can go through those. But the concepts were more about, and this kind of leads into tube mindset. The concepts were more about learn about you. Let's find out about what food does for your body, you specifically. And you'll never know that until you take a period of time to take it out and then reintroduce it. So that was way longer than I wanted to be about my story. But I wanted from there to give you guys just some general concepts of clean eating that I learned during that time. And you're going to see a lot of those same concepts within the programs if you go through the programs. And the programs, I'll explain this in a few minutes, are actual video-based education. It's almost like an online college course, if you will, about nutrition. So what I learned through my experience way back in the day when this all started was to not have a deprivation mindset. You can decide looking at the food that you've decided is going to be part of your meals today, and you can look at that and go like, that sucks. That doesn't taste good. I wish it was a burger. And like have that mindset where you're like, oh my gosh, it's gonna taste horrible, and have like a deprivation mindset where you're being deprived and it sucks. And it's gonna feel that way if you think that way. Or you can take it as empowering where you're like, I'm doing this to help my body get strong. I'm doing this to learn about what's gonna help support my body be healthier, or what foods are gonna help me lose the weight, or whatever your goals are. So having that switch is huge because, I mean, it sucks to go into anything with a horrible mindset. So especially when eating, which is something we have to do to live. So something to check your mind with. On cue, water. Water is a huge, huge, huge component of health that is so underrated. And you'll see me when I do check-ins in the group, seeing where your water intake is, how to calculate that. So a general rule of thumb is, let's say somebody is, let's just go with a nice round number because it's easy to calculate, but let's say a 200-pound person, what I would tell them is divide your weight in half, so 100, and make that ounces, so 100 ounces, and that would be your goal for the day. Now, let's say I am, let's say my goal is 100 ounces, and I get to 100 and I feel like I can have 30 ounces more. Awesome. Let's say I get to 100 and I feel like I'm floating. And I tell people it's going to take some time to adjust. Aim for that 100. But if you find out after a few weeks that you feel awesome at 95, 85, awesome. Like you've learned that about yourself, and that's okay. You make that your goal, you adjust. But hydration is huge. I've had times where I relearn how huge hydration is, and I'll have a week where I'm like not having any water, and then I will tracking my weight and all that. I'll up my water intake to where it's supposed to be, and all of a sudden you'll see like 3 pounds go down. You're like, okay, that was so dumb. Like that was my body deprived of water, and all I needed was to drink some water, and here I am worried about it creeping up. So drinking your water. Veggies is the huge component of the to be mindset, which I love, but I know that it could be hard for people. And I know that it could be tempting to like only eat veggies, be like, become a rabbit because you think that's what you need to do. So I wanted to introduce a concept that I learned through my experience, and that is protein and produce. So every time I looked at any of my meals, I'd always think, okay, a protein and a produce, a protein and a produce. And what that meant was having some sort of protein and having some sort of produce, whether that's a fruit or a veggie. And the other programs will go more in depth about like the types of foods that will support you. But for me, I always knew that if I had a meal and it was a protein and a produce, that worked well for me. It was balanced. So it's something that you guys can start using right away. And tracking was huge. And you'll see that as part of the other programs too. But I would, as long as it didn't become an obsessive, depressing thing, I would track. So I would write down what I ate. I would write down my weight for the next day, and then I'd be able to reflect back to that. So if I had a day where whatever I ate, and the next day I was down more pounds, this was when I was in weight loss mode. Like, this is where I had 50 plus pounds to lose. So I wanted to see the scale going down. So if you're anywhere in maintenance or you don't have a lot to lose, know that the line isn't like this. It's going to be like this sometimes going down, or maybe you're in maintenance where it's going to go like this, and that's okay. So always consider that in tracking. But in tracking, you're able to reflect back. So if I had a day where I felt bloated and the scale was up and I felt like I had a headache, I could go back to what happened yesterday, and look at my tracking and go like, oh wow, yesterday I had a whole bunch of more dairy than I usually do. Or, oh, look at that, um I didn't have as many veggies, but I had like way more carbs, or whatever it is. But I can learn from that. So instead of looking back and go like, oh, I ate horrible yesterday, like what exactly does that mean? I can look back and see like, okay, that was not a supportive day for me, or those meals were not supportive to my weight loss. And I can make those tweaks. Or I can look at yesterday, and let's say I woke up feeling awesome, slept great, weight was down. Then I can look at the day before and go, wow, that was a supportive day. Let me look at what I ate. I'm like, oh my goodness, I started my day um, with more veggies than normal, or I had way more water than I had been before, whatever it is. But I wouldn't know unless I tracked and then reflected back. So let's go into the 2B mindset and the ultimate portion fix, because those two programs are designed to lay it out for you, educate you, and support you. So I keep on telling you guys, like, don't get too hung up about the recipes, like learn the program. And of course the recipes are great. They're going to support you. They're going to give you new ideas. You're going to discover new things. I love finding new recipes, and I love looking at Fixate and getting new ideas. But if we get so hung up on just like, okay, tell me what to eat, we're not going to learn the concepts when nobody's there to tell you what to eat. So that's the beauty of like learning the program and knowing them. So that way, when you're on vacation, when you're staring at your pantry, when you're out to eat with girlfriends, you can be confident in your choices and not feel like, oh, I shouldn't have that, or that's really bad. Like, we want to grow out of that way of thinking, because that doesn't serve you. That doesn't help. That's not health. That's dieting. So these programs will support you in growing in that. So diving into the education. And if you don't yet have the programs, I'm going to go over the general ideas of them that will kind of like give you a taste of them. And I have had people who just took these general ideas and ran with them and have had great success. But it'd be like me telling you about a movie, or me telling you about a college class I took, and you taking that little bit of information and running with it, versus you seeing the movie or you going through the class, which would be a whole different experience. Does that make sense? Or me telling you about a country I visited versus you going to that country. So I want you guys to also think about that too, if you don't yet have access to these programs. The first one, 2B mindset. And if you don't have anything to write notes, I have this recorded, or we can talk about it later, or I can drop some notes later to take them. But the 2B mindset. So the 2B mindset, the whole program's concept is about basically 2B stands for two bunnies, which sounds really silly. And when you watch the program and watch the videos, you'll understand what it is and why she calls her people bunnies. But basically, two bunnies. So these are the two bunnies. Water first, veggies most, track daily, weigh daily. So those are her general, super broad, everyday concepts. So every day it's water first, veggies most, every meal. Every day you're tracking what you eat and you're tracking your weight. And so those are like the basis of the program. And it seems so simple and so like, okay, yeah, but it's applying them daily that is like the magic, and reflecting on them. Then she goes way more into teaching you exactly like how to plate your meals. So I'll go over that with you too, because again, me telling you versus you learning and experiencing it are two different things. But every day for breakfast, what you should be aiming for, and she plate it means like this, literally look at your plate and this is what's going to be. And it would be for breakfast, you want it to be 25% protein. I'm going to forget this right now. No, 50-50. Catch me in case you know this and I'm saying it wrong. But 50-50. So it's 50% a protein, 15% a fiber-filled carb. So she teaches you what fiber-filled carbs mean. She teaches you what silly carbs mean. And that the 2B Mindset program is very flexible in that if you choose to have a silly carb, have a silly carb. And basically a silly carb would be like, well, I'm going to have a muffin instead of a whole grain toast or whatever. And if you find that that day was a weight loss day for you and you enjoyed that muffin, by all means, that's all good. Like that means you're good. You're good with that. You moved enough to burn off that sugar and it's all good. Now, would toast be even better? Hey, would toast be better? Maybe, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can never have that. So because you're tracking every day. Lunch would be 25% protein, 25% fiber-filled carb, and 50% veggies. So now this is where veggies most comes in. Dinner is going to be 25% protein and 75% veggies. Now, for somebody who's just starting, that could be super overwhelming. So in learning, you're going to make small adjustments. That doesn't mean tomorrow this is what it is, and if it's not perfect, you failed. It means you're growing into this. This is what we're aiming for. But every day you're tracking and you're going to learn and reflect back on how that affected you personally. So that's the general idea of the 2B Mindset. The recipes you're going to find for those are going to support those like plated breakdowns. So just so you know, if you open a recipe for dinner for the 2B Mindset, whether it's on the Fixate menu, or I'm sorry, Mindset menu, or in the program, and you're like, oh, I don't like fish, or I don't like cauliflower, or whatever, the concept is protein and veggie. So you could be like, well, I'm going to use chicken and broccoli instead with the same recipe. So there's flexibility, just so you guys know what the recipe is, because I know we've talked a little bit about that. Let's move on to the ultimate portion fix. I'm not going to break everything down, but the container program is what you might know it as. With the ultimate portion fix, the whole concept is learning how to balance your macronutrients. How much macronutrients is all dependent, it's all individual. So if it's somebody who is, let's just throw it out there, let's pretend somebody who's 250 pounds who wants to lose weight and they're not ready for exercise, they're only going to be doing the nutrition part. Well, it's going to be a whole different calculation than somebody who's 250 pounds doing muscle burns fat on the containers. So I don't know if that makes sense. It depends on your activity level, where you're starting, what your goal is. And so there's calculations, and there's also calculations for like women who are pregnant, women who are breastfeeding, kids who are active, kids who are not active. Like I said, exercising, not exercising. So the whole program walks you through like exactly how to calculate it. And I can also do that. So something that I offer, and it's open to all of you guys, if the containers was something that we really wanted to embrace, is where I'll do the calculation for you and I'll give you a whole printout breaking down the containers, the categories, and how to use it for you. The work, that's going to be on your end. And like, I know some of you guys have said like, that just doesn't work in my world, having this all packed and doing it daily, and that can be overwhelming. But I do promise you that this is like an amazing, I call it macronutrient balancing for dummies, because you don't have to worry about figuring out like, well, how many carbs is good and how many veggies. So if you're not familiar with the containers, every single container that's color coordinated is a food group. And every food group, depending on your needs, is going to tell you every day how many to have. So like maybe it's 4 veggies, 4 of these throughout the day, not every meal, throughout the day. And proteins, maybe, let's just pretend, I'm not looking at my list or anything right now, but like 5. So you basically pair it off eating it however you like to. So whether you want chicken in here, or tuna in here, or whatever you want for your protein, you get to decide. It's flexible. Veggies, if you decide you only eat carrots, like by all means, then just eat the dang carrot. Over time, I hope you find some veggies you like or try to be able to find some. But you can be confident that you're getting a balanced macronutrients throughout the day. So I can go on that forever, but I wanted to keep it super basic, and then I wanted to open up to Q&A and then let you guys go from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'll keep recording, but you guys can, I'm gonna look through the questions, but you can also unmute yourself and ask me any questions, and I'll answer them the best I can. Hey, Joanna. So does anybody have any questions?
So with the with the portion control thing, so if I were to do that later on, you know, if I find out that the 2B mindset doesn't, you know, work with me, I do have, obviously I have a job. I work, you know, early in the morning to, you know, mid-evening or whatever. So how would that work with my, you know, lifestyle, I guess?
I'm so glad, kind of, it's really cool. I'm so glad you asked that, because I personally, on my day-to-day, I use them together. I use the concepts of the 2B mindset, but I use the calculations of the containers to keep myself on track. So for people who are busy, what I recommend is pre-packing. So what I do is I legit the night before, or the morning of, sounds good in theory, but let's be real.
Sometimes, but
right? So I tell people, like, do it the night before. It's gonna be better, because nope, somehow the morning hours just go away. But where I legitimately pack every meal, even if it's a meal I know I'm gonna be home for, I just pre-pack it all. And then that way, when I'm leaving, I know, okay, I'm going to take meals 1, 2, and 3 with me, because that's going to be out for, or I take the whole thing with me. Depends, you know, but that way it's all ready to go, grab and go. Something also with the containers to know about, in case you're like, oh my gosh, like that's so, like you feel like you're trapped with that for the rest of your life. After doing this for, let's say, a good solid month or 2, you're going to get to the point where, like, it's in here. And you look at a meal and you're like, okay, that's 2 greens and a red, perfect. And you jot it down, or you have it in your app, and you're good to go. But even when you get to that point, I always tell people, go back and revisit, like, once a month, do it for like a solid week, super strict, count, measuring them out, because this little yellow guy for carbs, like, so when you scoop it out, it's plenty. But sometimes when you're serving yourself without the yellow, it can start growing on you.
I know I'm waiting on mine with the package. I think I get some with the package that I ordered, but it hasn't shipped yet. So
yes, you do. But you have access to all the videos already, so that you can. Lori, did you have a question?
I have a question, actually. I'm Lori. You talked before. Hey, Rosie.
Yeah. Hey, girl.
Yeah. So, anyways, you know, I've gotten back into this, you know, the healthy eating and everything, and I'm really, you know, I gained the COVID-19, you know, like the freshman 15. Well,
Totally.
I gained the COVID-19. So I was actually curious about your, you said you had the protein one and you had the meat one, but what are all the other little ones?
Yeah, totally. I'll go over them. I brought them all, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so the red one is protein, and I have the measurement breakdown. I don't have it in my brain right now, but this is for protein.
Mm-hmm.
This is our veggies, so green means veggies. Purple is fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Blue is healthy fats, so that would be like avocado, hummus, those kind of things. Yellow is our carbs, and that doesn't necessarily, not just bread, so that would be like obviously breads, grains, so rices, breads, peas, some of the veggies that you don't realize that are actually and that's
Maybe?
Potatoes, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then I already said blue. Orange is our seasoned dressing.
Oh,
Which
so like if you're having a salad, that's how much
exactly.
dressing is? Okay.
Exactly. And it can seem like it's not very much, but
Mhm.
a little bit like it's
So
amazing. Like people look at these and they're like, there's no way. Like I need to eat more than that. And then you
Right.
fill them up and you dump them on your plate and you're like, oh my gosh, like
It's more than you thought.
magic. Yeah, it's like magic.
So, are those like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Are there more?
Those are the categories. So there's no candy category. There's no,
Well, luckily I don't have a super sweet tooth. My problem is I'm addicted to quiche. But so like, did you buy those, or is that like
So-
part of the Beachbody thing, or?
yes, so these are part of our Ultimate Portion Fix program. So you can buy them separate, just the containers, and I want to say it's like $10 for just these. And I've gone through extra certifications and trainings to be a master coach and teaching people this. So I do one-on-one coaching with how to use these, and I do like a personal customer or client write-up. So I can totally do that for anybody.
Hey.
Anytime you need to.
Oh, cool. Yeah, like,
Okay.
because I know we've talked before, and like, I've ever since, like I said, I gained the COVID-19, I've just got a fire under my ass. That's like, you gotta do something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, because I'm on medication that makes it hard for me to work out because I get overheated very easily, and I could have, issues. So I've been thinking I'm going to start going to the pool every night, and I was thinking of bringing weights and doing,
that's crazy.
yeah, I was looking online, and there's actually a lot of exercises that you can do in the pool, and you can add like more intensity. It doesn't have to be super low impact,
Exactly.
So
No, that's a great
that's
idea.
that's how I'm going to start. But like, I'm so glad that, I love Lori. She's awesome. And I love you. We've talked, and, I'm really ready to do it. I'm ready to do it.
That's great. And having just the program, like, so we can go over the containers and how to calculate it for you totally. The whole program, like I was talking before, is like a whole video series education. So I can tell you guys exactly how many that you should be having based on our conversations and all that. But when you dive into learning and really submersing yourself into like learning, like, well, why, and deeper into the program, that makes all the difference. And like I said, then it helps you take it beyond when you don't have these on hand, or when you're not doing that. It can help you learn just in general nutrition, how to make it work.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Rosie, for answering my questions. You rock, girl, and you look amazing, I must say.
Thank you.
I might give you a text or a message or whatever, so we can talk more. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
Of course. Does anybody else have any other questions? We'll go ahead and wrap it up in a minute. Any more questions, Ashley or Shannon?
No, I think I'm good for now.
Awesome. And if you, like, I know, Ashley, you have access to the programs right now.
Yep.
If you have the educational programs, dive into it. Start going through it and learn. I know it's tempting to kind of like jump in and do, but I always recommend take like the first week and just learn it, binge watch it like it's Netflix, and take your notes. And then the next week, start applying it and knowing that it's a growing learning process, not a perfection. I'm doing it right, I did it wrong, or I'm doing good, I'm doing bad, and go from there. Awesome. No, you're doing awesome. Shannon, did you have a question?
No, ma'am, I'm just listening.
Awesome. Well, ladies, I think I'll go ahead and wrap it up. But I'm super excited for all of you guys rocking your program, and you're doing amazing. Keep on going, and I'm here to support you. Okay? Oh, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. Let's see.